Hi, my name is Katherine Katcher. I'm the founder and executive director at Root and Rebound. Thank you so much for having me today. It's an honor to be here as a Columbia College alumnus and to speak to you on my thoughts about innovation and social justice. As you saw from our video, Root and Rebound works to protect and restore the rights of formerly incarcerated Americans so they can move forward with hope, dignity, and opportunity. Innovation is at the core of all that we do, pushing against what is possible in legal advocacy work, with the vision of democratizing the law, a tool of the elite, to serve some of the most marginalized people in our communities. Innovation in lawyering is challenging because lawyering is a tradition. It is resistant to change. Today, I want to share with you some of the key values and strategies that I use when working to change the paradigms of a long-standing model of practice, where lawyers have the power and clients are without. The first thing I want to say is this: innovation on its own does not have much merit. Innovation is a strategy and not an end in and of itself. A great quote by Anne Mae Chang says this: "Audacious goals are the birthplace of innovation. They inspire people and get them to stretch. That is where innovation comes from." I would add that in this context of social justice, that audacious goals that change the world are where we need to begin. So don't just strive to be an innovator, to be someone you hear about on TV or see in the news. Strive to make a big change, set big goals that are authentic to you, and innovate from there. The goals that drive my work come from a place of personal and moral outrage with the status quo. 2 million Americans are currently incarcerated, and 4 million are on some form of community supervision. These people are disproportionately low income and people of color. Our system is, without a doubt, rooted in slavery and continues to treat its incarcerated and formerly incarcerated populations as such. As an aside, if you have not read The New Jim Crow, you really should. So 95% of people today who are incarcerated will one day be released. And into what future? As our video states, across the United States, there are 48,000 legal barriers that people face. Barriers to housing, employment, education, and family reunification, ever getting to see their children again. As a result of these barriers, within 3 years, as we said, 50% of people who've been released will be homeless, 60% unemployed, and 70% will go back to prison. The 4 million people on parole and probation are even more vulnerable to being sent back. Minor technical violations, like showing up late to a parole office, missing a day of work, or using substances, things that are not crimes but technical violations, can mean years back inside. Mass incarceration and criminalization are complex, historical, societal problems that require thoughtful, complex, and responsive solutions. Yet when we started out, we didn't know what we would build. After outrage with the status quo came a question: how could we, a small group of lawyers, create lasting change that would support the most vulnerable communities in our country? We started out in answering this question by trying to understand the major issues we could effectively support on. In our first year, we saw individual clients with criminal records on all kinds of issues, from housing discrimination to parole violations to court-ordered debt issues. What we soon saw was that the scale of the problem was so big, it necessitated a whole different type of model than the typical one-on-one legal aid model that's so prevalent in our communities. Here's why. There is only one legal aid attorney in this country for every 10,000 indigent people that need one. And people without means tend to experience about 2 to 3 legal issues a year. Additionally, we know that 1 in 3 Americans lives with a criminal record. That's between 70 and 100 million. So we knew we had to create a model with tools that would reach people at scale And over time, that's what we have done. We created a statewide reentry legal hotline, the first in the country, whereby people who are incarcerated and free can speak to an attorney free of charge with the click of a button. In just 3.5 years since its launch, we have served over 10,000 people through our hotline. We created a guidebook, which you heard a little bit about in our video, that's now online in an HTML site that's searchable and in print. The guide democratizes the law and explains in plain language how to get an ID, eliminate fines and fees, and fight against employment discrimination, among many other issues. In the 4 years since its launch, we have sent it to more than 75,000 people. This guide has turned into even more resources that we've developed, 6 more toolkits in California, and many more we are developing nationally and in other states. And in coming back to our early days, because we know that individualized support is so critical, we have developed a scalable model of lawyering whereby we train and embed young attorneys to serve within community-based organizations and to fight for the rights of people who are most impacted. These attorneys utilize a toolbox of solutions, from direct representation to policy advocacy to know your rights training to impact litigation. In lawyering in this way, alongside and within grassroots organizations, we are turning the typical legal aid model and traditional power structures on their heads. And rather than trying to start a reentry organization in every community in need, we partner with wonderful organizations that already have deep community ties. Innovation is not easy. You meet a lot of resistance along the way. In fact, this isn't in my speech, but I had a terrible meeting yesterday as part of my continued innovation and work to expand our organization. So it happens all the time. Throughout the years, I can't tell you the number of times experts in the field that I have looked up to told me that what we were trying to create was just not going to happen. It was not possible because of reasons like lawyers need to specialize, you can't embed attorneys in that way, you can't create guides. Lawyers are very afraid of risk. And there are things that can solve for that, like disclaimers and guides. So there's always workarounds. But essentially what I'm trying to tell you all today is that if I had listened to those people that I looked up to so much, we would not be here where we are today. And yet, one other thing I want to leave you with is that some people are very much worth listening to. It is critical in doing this work, in innovating for social justice when we're trying to solve some of the most complicated problems of our time, to listen and get proximate to the people who are most impacted by these problems, and to learn from them before and as you act, to design for what they tell you they need, not what you think they need. By surrounding myself with advisors and mentors who have lived experience with the criminal justice system, I have been able to ground myself in a place of truer understanding and to innovate from there. And innovation, with its challenges and opportunities, continues for Root and Rebound. This summer, we are launching our very first sister site in another state. We are placing a managing attorney and site director in South Carolina to launch the Second Chance Justice Initiative there, with a partner organization, Soteria Community Development Corporation, a grassroots reentry center run by a man who's formerly incarcerated and who's been working on these issues in South Carolina for 16 years. This new site will require us at Root and Rebound to think about new ways to innovate again. It will require new solutions and new programs, and I am excited about the challenge. I am grateful for having the opportunity to share with you today. If you are so inspired, please join us. Go to our website, rootandrebound.org, to stay updated on our work, sign up for our newsletter, sign up to volunteer or intern if you're a student, or provide us with financial support. And for all of you future innovators out there, remember, innovation is a strategy, not an end in and of itself. And that means you can innovate from anywhere. Whether you are a doctor in a hospital, a diplomat working in government, or a CEO running your own startup nonprofit, you can innovate by questioning the status quo, setting audacious goals to change the world, and using a toolbox of new solutions to get there. Thank you.